So welcome, I'm Kim from Inside My Money and Happy New Year everybody. I thought I'd take the opportunity today, being the first of the new year, to do an update to HomeBank and just catch any new sort of features that have been put in or any changes. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you very quickly how to do an update, and it's not something that you'll always remember to do because we have automatic updates with our phones and with our other computer stuff. So HomeBank, you might not remember to do it. So I just tend to do it a couple of times a year and just pick up any of the major changes. So let's get into it and I will show you all the things that I've found. So when you want to do an update, I'm on the main sort of home screen here. I just go down to help and then check for updates. And then you can go into the actual HomeBank site, and then you can just download whichever is the right one for your system. So I just went into Windows and then just opened that and then let that come into my system, and then it just updated automatically. Then there's other things. If you go into the user manual, once you've done your updates, if you want to read it from a sort of techie point of view, then you can see on the left hand side that's when they show you what they've changed, and I'll go through a few of those things today. I won't get through all of them because I have made quite a few changes, but as I find them I'll do more of these videos and you can see all the good stuff. So just so that you know that, you can also then go into each one and then they'll give you a bit of a rundown in a very sort of basic way of how to do things. So that's how to do the update. So I've got my little list here. So the first thing I want to show you is a transaction. So if we go into our fictitious characters account, now you would have seen before that adding a new transaction was up the top here. So what they've done now is they've put it down the bottom, and they've done a few cool things actually. I'll just unlock so I can show you. So this is add, and in the usual way you can add your transaction. Now you've also got a number. I'm not entirely sure when I would sort of use that, but this one's quite good, payment, where you can actually click and say what payment method was used, and then you can start sorting on how many transactions is going through your credit card versus your transfers versus your electronic, or whichever way you want to do it. So that's quite nifty. That puts a little icon. So if we say this transaction here, let's go out and just choose a transaction. Let's say where they bought fruit and vegetables at the grocery store. If I was to go and double click on that, and then let's say that they used EFTPOS for that. So electronic payment could be the way that you used it there, and then you'd get a little icon that showed it was electronic. So that's quite handy. Now what else I've noticed, and this is really cool, is that let's say for instance that you haven't put everything into your scheduled payments yet, but you do get something that happens all the time. So for these guys, they're always getting charged water rates of $30 a month. So if they've forgotten to put it into the schedule, then what they can do is we can go inherit, and what that will do is it will take that exact transaction and then they just change the date. So I'll show you this over a few months because it looks like this hasn't been put in for a little while. So let's go and put it in for September, so the 22nd of September, and keep everything exactly the same, and then go add and keep, and then do it for the 22nd of October, add and keep, and the 22nd of November. So all you're doing is just changing the date, add and keep, and then the 22nd of December, add and keep. And now what you've effectively done is you've got one transaction already categorized, already got all of the information that you need from the memo and the amount, and now it's in there without you having to do a schedule. And so now what you can do is you can say, oh, I forgot that one, I'll go back and I'll make it into a schedule in your scheduled payments. So you go up to manage, schedule, and then you would put it in here going forward. But you wouldn't have to try and manually add that transaction in the old-fashioned sort of long way. So I think that inherit button is absolutely fantastic. That's going to save quite a lot of time. Now what you could also do is, because you've already reconciled the account, you could have also, when you were doing it, click the little green tick, which means that this is reconciled, and go OK. And then you don't have to do the multiple ticks down the bottom here, but I'll do them anyway just to show you. So loving the inherit button, where you can just pick up a transaction from before that maybe you did last month and go, oh, we did that again this month, inherit, and then you're just duplicating it. Makes it so much easier. And then we'll turn on the reconciled button again. Just a few reminders that, sorry, got something else to show you. Just a few reminders that you will, if you change the way that you're looking at these screens, if you're using category, then the balance will disappear, but as soon as you go back to date, you'll get your balance back. Now there's another new feature, and it's called Life Energy, and it's this little button, toggle Life Energy, up here. But to do that, we're going to have to go back into File, Properties, and there's something new called Life Energy here, and it's what it is it allows you, it's a different way of looking at your spending. So it allows you to say, well, I went out to dinner and it cost $150. If my hourly rate was $50 an hour, then how many hours do I need to earn to pay for that dinner? So if you're trying to save money, then you might think to yourself, oh, actually, I'm only prepared to spend as much as an hour going out to dinner, or an hour on this particular thing, or 2 hours on that. It just gives it a different slant, which might help you sort of think, oh goodness, I don't want to work for 2 hours just to buy that t-shirt. I'm quite happy to work half an hour and to buy that t-shirt. So just, yeah, different way of thinking about it. I haven't quite sort of figured out how it would motivate me, but I think it's probably still quite an interesting little tool to use. So the first thing you do is, under properties, is you put in an hourly rate that you think, oh, I'd quite like to earn that amount, $50 an hour or $100 an hour or whatever it is, and you click OK. Then when you go into your account, so that's just through the everyday account, when you toggle this little button up here, Life Energy, then it calculates, based on the amount that you've spent, how much of an hour or how many hours you'd have to have worked to pay for that. So if we pick, for instance, let's see, when they have to pay rent, that's a 12 hours, so that's a day and a half's work to pay their rent. If they have bought some groceries, then they've basically spent an hour and 18 minutes worth of their time to pay for those groceries. So that's just another little way that you might think, oh, that's quite interesting. I might just look at my spending a bit differently. So that's the next one. Now we've also got, if we go into our statistics report, there's some new features in here. And I seem to have always set my report to come up with percentages, which I'm going to have to change that, but that's okay. So what you can do is, if you look at time, there's now a new thing called forecast, and you can click on forecast. Now you don't see anything across here, but if you do a graph, then you can start to see, based on your scheduled payments, what your forecasted cash flow, money in, money out, is going to be for the next few months. You can choose all dates, and you can choose months, the last 30 days, just look at based on the last 30 days, what's going to happen for the rest of the time. I choose all dates, or the last 12 months, because then that kind of considers everything. Actually, I'll go 90 because I've only been doing it for these guys for 90 days. So you can see that when you hover over it, you're expecting the wages and salary for these characters to not change. We're expecting to spend, to save $600. We're expecting to spend $2,400 on rent. Now, the more scheduled payments you put in, obviously the more accurate this is going to be. But over time, you should, as you get more scheduled payments in there, you should be able to get a more accurate picture of your normal monthly cash flow. Not the ad hoc, the car broke down, I need new tyres, but just your normal monthly, in order for me to pay my bills, feed myself, house myself, what's that going to cost a month? So I think that's pretty cool. It just means you're going to take some time to put your scheduled payments in, but I'd just do that over time. Now the other thing is the filter, and I've always sort of tried to understand the filter, but it seems that it's a bit easier now to do. So what we can do is we can go on filter on type, status, account, payee, category. Now I always filter, and I turn it on, I always filter and go exclude, and I don't want to see things like capital gains. So if my investment goes up with capital gains, I want to look at cash flow. So capital gains, investments go up and down. So I always take out the capital gains side of things. So if we go down to investments, I would toggle capital gains, and you can toggle the different ones. So I'd toggle dividends, I'd toggle capital gains, but not dividends or interest. And then you go use, and then when you go back to total, you won't see that in your report. So then it's just purely cash flow. So that's how you can use the filter function. I think the filter function is quite a bit better. It just seems to work a bit better now. Now you also notice that it's gone from having custom dates to having a lot more choices, but specific, like last week, last month, next week, the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So rather than doing it from a particular date to a particular date, they've given you quite a lot of options, sort of quick tools, quick options you can choose. The obvious ones, like I want to look at last month, or I want to look at the last 60 days. So that's quite good. That's a new feature as well. Just remember that if you're going to look at the last 30 days, it's not going to be the same as the last month, because you're going to have months where there's 31 days. So there's that one too. So I wanted to show you that. I've showed you the payment one. There's a few. I've got a wee list here. Now, one other thing that I thought was great was the screen. I've never really done much with my front dashboard screen, because I take my information and I put it into a spreadsheet and I do a bunch of graphs for myself that kind of mean more for me. But I did have a play around with these screens this morning and thought that this was quite cool. So I've changed the spending category one. If you click on settings, the little cog, then you can change and look at it for whatever you want. So maybe account, if you want to see how much is going through your accounts. But I thought payee would be quite helpful, and you could do it for the next, say again, all the different dates, say the last 90 days, and you can start to see who's getting all of your money. Now this might be quite useful if you think, oh goodness, my insurance is getting really expensive, I'm going to go and look for cheaper insurance, or I'm going to look for a cheaper phone and internet, or I'm going to, oh goodness, we're spending quite a lot at Pack and Save, or spending quite a lot at a particular supermarket. Let's see if we can get some things cheaper at a different supermarket. So you can just, depending on what you want to focus on, you could focus on category, which is always the normal one, but then you have other options with your little toggle here as well, with your cog. The same goes for this one to the right. So I've now got two things that I can track. I can track where my money's going, but I can also track if the account balances are getting better. Now this negative is obviously the personal loan that these guys have got, so over time that's definitely got to come down to 0. And then this is their investments. They've both got retirement savings, and then they've got their emergency fund, and they've got their everyday account, and they've also got their house fund. So naturally you want to see all of this go down, and you want to see all of this go up. So that's quite a good snapshot picture, and then this is the other good sort of snapshot picture. So I really quite like those. The other things that you just need to probably want to check up on is your backups. So make sure that you are also doing a backup off your computer. So what we do is we just use a USB key and we do a full backup of everything regularly. And that way, if something ever happens, you've always got it. So I wanted to send you a reminder on the backups. So that's some of the new features that I've found so far. If you want to know about more, then just go into the HomeBank documentation and just click on things like what's new, and that will cover off different things. But apart from that, that's all the new features that I've found. If you find something else, please let us know. Chuck a comment in and let us know if there's something even better. But that's it from me. I hope you have a great New Year's. Look after yourselves, and we'll talk again soon.